Before we go into the questions, I would like to spice up the debate a bit by asking a question of my own, which I sort of had before, and it struck out even more in those keynote speeches. As also Rene mentioned that most of the young people today don't have a sort of a straight worldview, or they don't affiliate themselves with the parties, and also our Estonian research has shown that 46% of the youth doesn't really follow a specific worldview. So therefore, the question is it sort of a really opening way of thinking among youth, or is it just a current or a result of current civics education sort of result that the young youth don't want to be affiliated with the parties, or they don't know how to affiliate themselves? So it's a matter of question how our civics education has sort of coped, and I think that's a question for all of the panelists. So if anyone would like to start right away, I would give the floor to you.
Should we start from me?
Yeah.
The question, I wouldn't put that much responsibility on school. It's quite often if something is not as we would like it to be, and it's in some ways in school curricula, we look at the school. Oh, sorry. I wouldn't put so much responsibilities on school. It's quite often we look at something that's wrong in society, and we see that similar thing is in school curricula, and therefore school has to do something more. That's the question of, I guess it's the image of politicians is much wider than what schools, civic education, etc. can never solve. So I'd say the image of politicians, it's not problematic in just one country. I guess it's questioned in most of Western and non-Western democracies. So I can't really even guess any answer to that.
Yeah, I began to think that maybe society has changed faster than the parties, and the people or youth may have opinions on some matter, but and they can refer that to one party, but maybe on another matter they kind of refer to another party. So maybe the parties should kind of develop themselves as well to kind of face the modern city living people, maybe.
I would agree that, I mean, I don't know the numbers for Estonia, but in Germany the parties that we have are quite established, and even though there are sometimes new coming up, both major parties have been there for ages. And young people in general tend to not affiliate with parties as much anymore, but are more driven into project-based participation. So they engage in NGOs in their communities, in some other projects they set up, which are not as bound to a longer time frame as affiliation with a party is, but more to a specific topic, and which can also take a couple of years. But yeah, as Chris said, it's more driven for a certain topic than for the general ideology of the party. And I also don't think that schools should set up pupils in a way that they should affiliate with certain parties, but more that, as it was also mentioned before, that they are able to critical analyze those topics and to see which party in case of an election would support this, or where else they can make an impact.
That's true that there are lack of young people among the decision makers in Finland. From local to national level, there are only 6 to 7% of decision makers are under 29 years old, meaning young, based on Finnish law. Quite recently, there has been several working groups producing theses how to modernize the way the parties are, for example, working. Some of them even suggest that governmental funding should be depending on if the party is somehow modernizing the way it is working. So there are discussions about these thematics. At the same time, like said earlier in this seminar, the question is also understanding what actually is politics. Politics is like a life, was said here earlier. When we discuss with the young people and decision makers in the local level, young people are very interested, and both are satisfied, young people and decision makers afterwards, and they are very enthusiastic. They have found each other. How they can find each other in a more broader way than not only through during the discussion days, I don't have any answers yet, but we must develop the case probably on the several ways, modernizing the parties and opening up face-to-face discussion possibilities between different age groups and power, between the people in power and between young people.
So my work is to be the last, and it's very, very hard to add something. I have to say that this project-based approach or participation is very common in Estonia as well. But just a thought about politics. What if we lose the names of different parties? Because with losing names, we will lose different persons and faces. And we are talking only about how we see things when we are liberals, when we are in central. And maybe it could help to give the information to youngsters. Just a thought.
Thank you. Are there any questions or regarding the similar approach? Okay, if not, then I can maybe continue. Also about the education part, as I would make maybe examples from Estonia, maybe our side has sort of or our culture of participating in school life, as previously mentioned also in the first panel, is more towards this obedient sort of version, whereas students tend to be more quiet or tend to not to distract the class in a way or give out their opinions. So as also in regards of the future civic education, how can this sort of culture of discussing and different methods can be developed both by school and by the civic education or other classes? So how can we sort of get this way of students being more active or more interested or more hands-on approach, as mentioned, that students or young people want to have this more hands-on approach? How can we sort of implement this into our education system more?
I would say revolution in attitudes, how classes are being taught, how school is being defined, has been ongoing at least here in Estonia for the last 15 years. You can find schools that are, maybe their educational level is similar, but their attitudes towards pupils can be 180 degrees different. And when we're talking about high schools, for example, then we have high schools that function like extended basic schools, just class after class. Then we have high schools that function like small universities, where students have to make choices in their curricula, have to take responsibility for the choices, where they have seminars instead of classes. And at least looking at the wider picture, I think the problem is solving itself. There isn't just one revolution that revolutionizes everything, but the understanding that things have to change, and the change itself is manifold, I would say. It has many different ways of expressing itself, is ongoing, and I think in 10 or 20 years we will see the results in more uniform way. We can say that it has changed, but today we just have some anecdotal evidence one way, anecdotal evidence another way, but the change is ongoing. How the school function involves students, and we can see the results if we look at them today.
Yeah. In recent study, I think it was OECD, maybe I can remember better, Finnish 9th graders were studied to have a good knowledge base and capabilities needed to be active citizens, but they are just not interested in being ones. So the great challenge in teaching is to raise the interest and enthusiasm amongst the pupils, and that's why I would like to refer to the Austrian example presented here before, that the only answer is to show the importance of politics and economy and legal questions and etc. to the students.
Yeah, I think that one of the key points is, and I have to agree there, that we need to give students the opportunity to take over responsibility, and to also, as I think you mentioned earlier, to not give them this pretense that they can partake and then are not recognized in what they're doing. I think the age from when on you might want to be politicized and want to participate can differ between 10, 11, 12 years old, but for some people it might only be in their 20s. So just making a decision based on when they are actually starting is giving a false pretense. I think we need to give them the opportunity, and from there on people can grow, and young people can grow with these challenges. The capability is definitely there also for younger people.
Let me remind that it's not only the formal education, but we must think the society as such, which kind of opportunities, channels, tasks, positions of power we can open for young people.
I will repeat myself. Let's start in early age. Let's start in kindergartens. And actually, you made me think so that I'm going home and call to my daughter's teacher. She's 6, so kindergarten, and tell her that I want to organize a meeting with their kindergarten group, because they want to build a new playground for our kindergarten, and I'm ready to organize a meeting with the oldest group in kindergarten and discuss which it should be, what they want, what they can do, what we have to do after we have this playground. Hold it clean, or be nice with friends. This is the small model of big world. Let's start very early.